One sentence can burn down 12 years of your life. I'm Sylvia Hunt, I'm 34 years old, and I spent over a decade turning my family's depressing little roadside motel in Atlanta into a boutique hotel people actually wanted to stay in. We called it Hunt Haven. I started as the girl behind the front desk, printing key cards, apologizing for broken ice machines, juggling complaints, and I clawed my way up to operations manager. I redesigned systems, trained staff, rebuilt our reputation from the ground up. The 5-star reviews? The hidden gem blog posts? The repeat guests who knew us by name? That was me. So when it came time to choose a CEO, when it was finally time to decide who was going to lead this thing I'd poured my entire 20s into, my parents looked me in the face, looked at my younger brother, and handed everything to him. Let's call him Prince Ezra. In front of the staff, in the boardroom I'd painted myself, he sneered. You don't deserve it. And my parents laughed like it was some silly sibling banter, not a knife to the throat. I didn't cry. I didn't scream. I smiled, nodded, and quietly decided to let their golden boy carry his own weight. 3 months later, the hotel I'd built started acting wrong. The front desk bell rang in the middle of the night in an empty lobby. The booking system glitched and flashed a message across the screen. Welcome back, sister. Staff whispered about ghosts. Guests complained about weird noises. But it wasn't a haunting. It was the echo of my work. And the consequences of their choices. And I was done saving them. Before I tell you how my brother destroyed our hotel and how karma did the rest, do me a quick favor. If you like long, messy family drama stories where people finally wake up and choose themselves, hit that subscribe button, tap the like, and ring the bell so you don't miss the next one. It actually helps a ton and tells me to keep making these story times for you. Alright. Let me rewind, because this didn't start in that boardroom. It started way before Hunt Haven even existed. If you'd walked into my childhood home, you'd have thought we were running a museum dedicated to my brother. Ezra's soccer trophies lined the mantel. His elementary school most creative certificate was in a frame. There was a drawing he did of a green blob that Mom swore was proof he's gifted. My straight A report cards? Stuffed in a kitchen drawer. Somewhere between coupons and old takeout menus. One memory pretty much sums up our dynamic. I was 14, sitting at the dining table with this shiny plaque in front of me, my school's award for academic excellence. I'd studied my butt off that year. Late nights, no social life, the whole cliché. Dad was at the table reading the paper. Mom was cooking. Ezra was watching TV in the living room. I cleared my throat. Hey, I said. They gave me this today. I turned the plaque so they could see. They said I can apply for a summer program. They're even giving a small scholarship for it. Mom turned, spatula in hand. Oh wow, honey, that's nice, she said. Put it on your desk. I don't want grease splattering on it. Before I could say anything else, Ezra came stomping in. Dad. Look. He thrust a crumpled permission slip at him. Coach said if I work hard this season, he might consider me for varsity next year. Dad's chair scraped back. Varsity? That's my boy, he said, pulling Ezra into a side hug. You'll be the first Hunt on varsity. Mom practically squealed. See? We knew you had it in you, baby. I sat there with this plaque in front of me, invisible. Dad glanced at it once. That's good too, Sil, he tossed out casually, then went back to hyping up my brother. I remember gently turning the plaque back toward me, tracing my name with my thumb, and thinking. Okay. So it's not enough yet. I just have to do more. That became my entire personality. If I work harder, if I achieve more, they'll see me. Spoiler, they didn't. By the time I graduated college with a business degree, Hunt Motor Inn, our family motel, was basically on life support. Faded sign. Peeling paint. Carpet that smelled like mystery. Guests only stayed if they were desperate or stranded. Online reviews were brutal. Fine if you're about to die and just need a roof for the night. Smelled like old socks and sadness. I wanted to work in hospitality, but I dreamed of corporate hotels, sleek chains, shiny lobbies. Instead, Mom slid a polo shirt across the table. Just for a little while, she said. We're short on staff, and you're so good with people. You can job hunt while you help us out. Of course, I said yes. That's what I did. That's what I was. So I became the receptionist. I checked people in, apologized for slow Wi-Fi, and offered free coffee out of a machine that tasted like burnt dirt. I cleaned up vomit once. I calmed down a guy who was mad his room didn't feel like the Ritz even though he'd paid $49 plus tax. But something weird happened. Even in all that mess, I started to see possibilities. The layout was bad, sure. The decor was tragic. But the bones of the place? Not hopeless. During slow nights, I started making lists behind the desk. Lobby repaint, neutral tone, not yellow. Yellow is making us look sick. Upgrade coffee. Local roaster maybe? Set up simple welcome basket in rooms, water plus city map plus small snack. I'd slide the notebook back under the counter whenever Dad walked by. When he did spot it once, he chuckled. You and your lists, he said. Just focus on check-ins. We'll handle the big stuff. Spoiler, they did not handle the big stuff. The first person who treated that notebook like it mattered was my grandfather, Walter. He'd been the original owner back when the motel was just a cheap overnight stop on a busy highway. By then, he was retired, living in a cozy old house with a cluttered study. Shelves sagged with binders, old keys, and black and white photos of the motel's early days. One evening, after a day full of complaints and a near fight in the parking lot, I showed up at his door with takeout. He poured me tea, motioned for me to sit, and said, "All right, tell me." So I did. "I can't keep apologizing for stuff we could fix," I said. "The rooms are dark, the lobby is depressing, the website looks like it was built on a calculator. We're hanging on by a thread, and Mom and Dad act like it's fine." He listened in silence. When I was done, he held out his hand. "Show me," he said. I pulled out the notebook, suddenly embarrassed. It felt childish. He flipped through the pages slowly. After a while, he looked up with this small smile. "You know what this is?" he asked. "Complaining?" I said. "Blueprints," he said. "This is a new hotel trying to be born." He pulled open a drawer and took out old floor plans. "When I built the original, I didn't know half as much as you do now. You've actually lived in the thing." We spent hours at that desk. He'd say, "What if we knocked out this wall to open up the lobby?" I'd say, "Then we could put a lounge here, make it somewhere people actually want to sit." We circled, scribbled, erased, redrew. At the top of my notes, I wrote a word. Haven. "People don't just want a bed," I said. "They want a little break from their life. A haven." He tapped his pen. "Hunt Haven," he said. "Has a ring to it." I still get chills thinking about that night, because that was the first time someone with authority looked me in the eye and said, "You're not just helping. You're building." Getting my parents on board was another story. "Rebrand?" Dad repeated at the kitchen table. "We've been Hunt Motor Inn for decades. People know us." "Yeah," I said, carefully. "They know us as that tired place by the exit with the weird smell." Mom frowned. "That's harsh, Sylvia." "Read our reviews," I said, sliding printouts across the table. "People are literally saying they'd rather sleep in their car." They squinted, skimmed, winced. I pointed to my mock-up, a new logo, warmer colors, a simple website design I'd Frankenstein together with free tools. "Look," I said. "We don't need to become a giant hotel. We just need to be intentional. Boutique. Cozy. Clean. People will pay more for that." Dad sighed. "Where do you think this money is coming from?" I had already prepared for that. "We phase it," I said. "We repaint a few rooms at a time. We partner with a local artist for wall pieces in exchange for stays. I handle the website myself. We focus on things that matter most to guests: beds, lighting, bathrooms, service." Grandpa, who'd been listening quietly at the end of the table, finally spoke. "Let her try, Norman," he said. "What you're doing now is failing. Worst case? You end up where you already are." That shut Dad up. So we did it. We repainted the rooms. We swapped the harsh lights for warm lamps. We changed the bedding. We put a little welcome card on each pillow that said, "Welcome to your haven." I learned how to do basic SEO and fixed our listing photos so they weren't shot on a potato. Slowly, the reviews changed. Honestly, this place surprised me. Felt more like a little boutique than a rundown motel. Front desk manager Sylvia is amazing. We started getting bookings from people who weren't just stranded travelers. Couples. Solo travelers. Even a few influencers stumbling through Atlanta. I watched the numbers climb and thought, okay, maybe this is what I'm meant to do. I still thought, somewhere in the back of my mind, and when they see what I've done, they'll finally see me. Then Prince Ezra came home. I was behind the front desk when the lobby doors slammed open and a guy in sunglasses strolled in like he owned the place. Even before he pushed the glasses up, I knew who it was from the swagger. "Sil," he shouted. "What is this? Spotlighting? You turned our place into a Pinterest board." I rolled my eyes. "Nice to see you, too, Ezra." He spun slowly, taking it all in. "Okay," he said, hands on hips. "I see you. Hunt Haven? That's not bad." I shrugged, trying not to smile. Rebrand suits it better. People like it. I printed a key card. "You staying long or just gracing us with your presence?" He leaned on the counter. "Actually, I've been thinking." Uh-oh. We had dinner that night, the four of us, me, Mom, Dad, and the prodigal son. Ezra launched into this whole monologue. "Hospitality is hot right now," he said, twirling pasta on his fork. "Experiences, aesthetics, social media. If we play it right, Hunt Haven could be a brand." Dad nodded like he was describing quantum physics. "I've done events in LA, I know influencers, I've seen what sells," Ezra went on. "You guys have the bones. I can bring the vibe." Mom sighed dreamily. "See? I always said you had a gift for big ideas." I opened my mouth. "I've actually been planning." Ezra cut me off. "Sil, you're amazing with the day-to-day," he said. "Nobody's arguing that. But someone's gotta think big. You're in the weeds. I'm a big picture guy." Mom and Dad both looked at him like he'd just parted the Red Sea. I looked down at my plate. One part of me wanted to scream, "I am the big picture, you idiot." The other part whispered, "Let them talk. The work speaks for itself." I didn't realize then that they'd fallen in love with the idea of Ezra as a visionary long before he ever stepped in the building. The CEO announcement was supposed to be a big step forward. Dad sent a formal email asking senior staff to meet in the conference room at 10 a.m. I wore my best blazer. I even straightened my hair. A tiny, foolish part of me thought, maybe this is it. Maybe they finally see what I've done. We all sat around the table, department heads, a couple of supervisors, me. Mom and Dad were at the front. Ezra lounged near them, pretending to scroll his phone. Dad cleared his throat. "As you all know, Hunt Haven has grown," he began. "We've gone from a struggling roadside stop to a thriving boutique destination. We're very proud of the team, and especially proud of our family for getting us here." He smiled at me, but it felt generic. Like the same smile he'd give a vendor. "And now," he continued, "we're ready to formalize leadership. After careful consideration, we've decided to appoint Ezra as the Chief Executive Officer of Hunt Haven." The air left my lungs. I kept my smile glued on. Around the table, people shifted, glanced at me, then quickly looked away. They knew who actually ran things. Mom jumped in. "And of course, we couldn't function without Sylvia as our operations manager," she said quickly. "She's essential to daily operations. We're so grateful for her reliability." There it was. Ezra hopped up, grinning. "You're in good hands," he said. "I've got big plans for us. Partnering with creators, maybe opening a second location, turning this into a lifestyle brand." Then he looked right at me. And with that little smirk he'd had since we were kids, he said, "Don't worry, Sil. You're not CEO material, but you're great with checklists and guests who yell about pillows. You keep us running. I'll keep us growing. We make a good team." The room went dead silent. Lena, our front desk manager, stared at him like he'd grown a second head. Miguel, our head of housekeeping, actually muttered, "Bruh," under his breath. I waited. I waited for Dad to say, "That's out of line." For Mom to say, "Apologize to your sister." Instead, Mom chuckled. "Oh, don't tease your sister," she said. Dad added, "He's just joking. Don't take it so personally, Sylvia." In that moment, something in me snapped, but not loudly. It was like a quiet click inside. The little girl who thought, if I just work harder, They'll see me? She died in that conference room. I took a slow breath. I smiled at Ezra. Congratulations, Mr. CEO, I said. I can't wait to see what you do. And I meant it. Because I had just decided I wasn't going to save him anymore. Up until that point, my job looked like this. Official title, Operations Manager. Actual role, CEO, HR, therapist, firefighter. I worked 10 to 12-hour days. I answered staff calls at midnight. I'd drive in on Sundays because Ezra forgot he approved a late checkout for a VIP guest and now housekeeping is short-staffed. I didn't charge extra. I just absorbed it. After that boardroom scene? No more. The very next day, I walked in at 8 a.m. sharp. I did my work, thoroughly, professionally, by the book. At exactly 5 p.m., I logged off, turned off the office light, grabbed my bag, and headed for the door. Ezra caught me in the lobby. Yo, he said. We've got that brainstorming call with a new branding agency at 7. I didn't stop walking. I'm off at 5, I said. You're CEO. You can lead it. He frowned. I thought we were partners. We are, I said. You're the vision. I'm the operations. You made that very clear. He scoffed. Don't be like that. You know I'm just playing. I turned, meeting his eyes. You told a room full of our staff that I don't deserve leadership, I said. You weren't playing. You meant it. So now I'm acting like it's true. You lead. I'll manage. Within my hours. He opened his mouth, closed it, rolled his eyes. Whatever, he muttered. Don't get dramatic. I walked out into the evening air feeling half sick, half free. It was the first boundary I'd ever drawn with my family. And trust me, they did not like it. The universe must love dramatic timing, because right when I started acting my wage, the Redwood hospitality opportunity landed in our laps. Redwood was a major hotel group looking for a boutique-style property in Atlanta to host their fall leadership conference, hundreds of guests, multi-day event, big spenders. I had been quietly courting them for months. I built slide decks, drafted sample schedules, organized site tours, and sent painfully detailed follow-up emails. Their regional director, Robert Harper, had told me on the phone. You're sharp, Sylvia. If this works out, it'll be because of your prep. Then Ezra became CEO. Dad practically puffed up like a balloon. This is perfect, he said. Ezra, you'll lead the Redwood deal. It'll be your first big win as CEO. He brought the Redwood folder into Ezra's office like it was a crown. I watched from the doorway. Ezra shoved his feet up on the desk, flipped the folder open, skimmed a couple pages, and tossed it aside. Yeah, I'll look at it, he said. They're corporate. I'll just sell them on the vibe. They eat that up. For a week, staff kept asking me Redwood-related questions. Do we need to block off deluxe rooms? What about conference seating layouts? Are we setting a minimum spend for catering? I answered the same way every time. You need to ask Ezra. He's handling Redwood. The day of the site visit, Robert and his team walked into our lobby in suits and polished shoes. I shook his hand. Good to see you again, he said. We're excited. Ezra will be leading today, I said. I'll just be here if you have operational questions. Ezra was 10 minutes late. He strolled into the conference room with his shirt a little wrinkled, hair not quite dry. Sorry, traffic, he said, like we weren't meeting a client with a multi-million-dollar budget. They sat. Robert opened his notebook. So, Robert said, we're looking to finalize soon. We'll need clear numbers on capacity, sample schedules, load-in logistics, and AV capabilities. Ezra smiled wide. Totally, he said. We're big on flexibility. We can adapt to anything you need. Robert waited. Do you have the breakdown we requested last week? The one Sylvia referenced in her last email? He asked. Ezra's smile faltered slightly. We're still refining it, he said. But the rooms speak for themselves. We've got that boutique charm you can't get from a cookie-cutter chain. Leaders will feel inspired here. He gestured vaguely toward the window like the trees were part of the pitch. Robert glanced at me. I wanted to slide the backup copies out of my folder, stand up, and just take over. But that boardroom scene replayed in my head. You don't deserve it. She's just operations. I kept my hands folded in my lap. Well, Robert said evenly, we'll need concrete details before we can commit. Absolutely, Ezra said. We'll send something over. He never did. 2 days later, we got the email. We appreciate your time, but we've decided to go in a different direction for this year's conference. Dad printed it, stormed into my office. How could you let this happen? He barked. I stared at him. Let what happen? You knew how important this contract was, he shouted. Why didn't you step in when you saw your brother fumbling? I felt my jaw clench. I did my job, I said. I built the relationship. I prepared the documents. I handed them to the CEO you chose. He decided not to use them. It's not about titles, Dad snapped. It's about family. We needed that deal. I looked him dead in the eye. That's funny, I said. Because when I asked for leadership after building everything, you said it was about titles. He had no answer for that. He just walked out, muttering about loyalty. And that's when the idea of leaving stopped being a fantasy and started becoming a plan. Quick break before things get even messier. If you were in my shoes during that Redwood meeting, watching someone tank a deal you spent months preparing, would you jump in and save it anyway? Let it crash to prove a point? Or pretend your mic cut out and disappear? Ice emoji. Let me know in the comments what you'd really do, not what you wish you'd do. Alright. Back to the haunting. The first haunting call came on a Tuesday around midnight. I was at my apartment, half asleep on the couch with the show droning in the background, when my phone buzzed. Nina, our night front desk clerk, was calling. I almost didn't pick up. I wasn't on call anymore. That wasn't my job. But old habits die hard. Hey, Nina, I said. Her voice came through in a harsh whisper. Sylvia, I'm so sorry to bother you, but something's wrong. My brain immediately went to worst-case scenarios. Fire. Break-in. Injury. What's going on? I asked, sitting up. The bell keeps ringing, she said. Like, the front desk bell. Every few minutes. But no one's here. Doors are locked. Cameras show nothing. I frowned. Maybe the bell's faulty? Vibration? A draft? That's not all, she said. The booking system is glitching. You need to see this. She sent a picture. They're on the main screen, like some weird retro horror game, in big block letters. Welcome back, sister. My blood ran cold for a second. Years ago, when I'd worked with a small tech company to modernize our system, I'd set up a custom welcome message when I logged in late at night. Just for fun. Welcome back, Sylvia. At some point, during testing, one of the devs had shortened it in the back end to welcome back, sister. It never surfaced on the main screen. It was just a test string buried in the code. Until now. What did Ezra do? I asked. Nina sighed. He canceled the maintenance contract, she said. Said it was too expensive and that we are not idiots, we can handle our own system. Of course he did. So now there's some loop weirdness, she continued. Every time the system tries to load that message when someone logs in, it stalls and triggers the bell notification because it thinks someone is at the desk. Over and over. It's creeping everyone out. I can walk you through a manual reboot, I said, automatic. You'll need to. I stopped. Because I could hear Grandpa's voice in my head. You don't have to carry their mistakes. And my own thought, if I fix this, nothing changes. They learn nothing. Nina waited. Sylvia? She asked softly. My chest felt tight. I'm really sorry, Nina, I said. But I'm not the system admin anymore. I don't have sign-off. You need to tell Ezra and your parents that they either hire support or live with the glitch. But they won't spend the money, she whispered. You know that. I know, I said. And that's their choice. Not yours. Not mine. She was quiet for a moment. I miss you here, she said finally. It doesn't feel like the same place without you. That one hurt more than the glitch. I miss you too, I said. But I'm not coming back. We hung up. I stared at the ceiling in the darkness, listening to my own pulse. Part of me felt cruel. The other part knew this was the only way they'd ever see the hole I'd been patching with my bare hands. Some problems you don't fix for people. Because the pain is the lesson. The glitches were just the beginning. With no maintenance contracts, no training budget, and a CEO who thought confidence could replace competence, Hunt Haven started to unravel. Housekeeping was short-staffed. Vendors weren't paid on time. One-star reviews trickled in. Used to love this place. Feels chaotic now. Staff seems stressed. Something's off. One afternoon, Mom called, voice shaky. "Can you come to your father's office?" she asked. "We need you." I almost said no. But curiosity, and some leftover daughter instinct, won. When I walked into Dad's office, he and Mom were seated side by side. There were dark circles under their eyes I'd never seen before. Ezra sat in a chair in the corner, arms crossed, staring at the floor. Dad cleared his throat. "Hunt Haven is not doing well," he said. "We're behind on payments. Guests are complaining. We lost Redwood. We made mistakes." That was as close to an apology as he could manage. Mom leaned forward. "We realized something," she said, voice wavering. "We need your leadership, Sylvia. Not just your reliability. Your grandfather always said you had the head for this. We see that now. So, we want you to come back as co-CEO with Ezra." She said co like it was a prize. "We'll put you both on the paperwork," Dad said quickly. "Titles, contracts, everything. It's fair this way." My heart ached. If they had said this 2 years earlier, I would have cried from relief. I would have stayed until I was old and gray. But now, it tasted like desperation. "You want me to come back and fix what he has broken," I said quietly. Dad flinched. "We want you to lead together." "You had 12 years to see me as a leader," I said. "You waited until the boat was halfway underwater." Ezra finally spoke. "You're being dramatic," he said, still not looking at me. "We're just asking you to help. We're family. You're acting like a stranger." I turned to him. "You told everyone I don't deserve the top job," I said. "You made it clear how you see me. Why would we suddenly be equals?" He rolled his eyes. "It was a joke." "No," I said. "It was how you really feel, wrapped in a joke so you don't have to own it." Mom reached for my hand, eyes glassy. "We're giving you what you wanted, Sylvia," she said. "The title, the control. Don't throw this away." I took a breath. "You're not giving me anything," I said softly. "You're asking me for everything. Again. Only this time, you want me to save you first." Dad's face hardened. "So that's it? You'd rather watch your family's legacy die than swallow your pride?" Right then, my phone buzzed in my pocket. I glanced at the screen. It was an email from Robert Harper at Redwood. "Can we set up a call? I have an opportunity I think you're perfect for." I looked back at my parents. "Legacy?" I repeated. "You gave my legacy to Ezra. You told me to sit quietly and be grateful. I'm done paying for your choices." I stood. "Where are you going?" Mom whispered. "To talk to someone who sees my value before everything is on fire," I said. I left their office and, in the hallway, called Robert back. The call with Robert was short and to the point. "We're expanding," he said. "We've noticed your work from the Redwood proposal, even though your hotel fumbled it. I looked into you. We have an opening for a director of operations overseeing multiple properties. I want you for it." I leaned against the wall, staring at a framed photo of Hunt Haven's grand opening. "What would that involve?" I asked. He listed responsibilities that sounded like my current job, but with authority, resources, and pay that actually matched. "We value people who can both dream and execute," he said. "From what I've seen and heard, that's you." That night, I sat at my little kitchen table, staring at my laptop, my resignation letter half written on the screen. My fingers hovered over the keys. Walking away meant leaving the staff I loved behind, letting Hunt Haven crash, abandoning the thing I'd built my identity around. But staying meant carrying a CEO who never respected me, working for parents who only valued me when they were panicking, slowly burning out and resenting everyone. I thought about Grandpa's blueprint, my notebook, the welcome back, sister glitch. I finished the letter, printed it, signed it. The next morning, I placed it on Dad's desk. He read the first lines, and his face went from confusion to disbelief to anger. "You're quitting," he said flatly. "Yes," I said. You'd really walk away from us when we need you most? I've been here every time you needed me, I replied. When you didn't. When you didn't even notice. Now I need me. Mom came in halfway through. She picked up the letter with shaking hands. What will people think? She asked, tears filling her eyes. That you put your son in charge of something he couldn't handle and your daughter finally stopped hiding that fact, I said. Ezra wasn't there. He sent me a text later. Wow. Enjoy selling your soul to corporate. Don't come crawling back when they chew you up. I didn't respond. I packed my office, my old awards, the first Hunt Haven pamphlet I'd designed, a mug Lena had given me that said Chaos Coordinator. The staff gathered around, awkward and emotional. Lena hugged me. It won't be the same, she said. Miguel shook my hand. You deserved better, boss, he said softly. I left my keys on the front desk with a quiet clink that sounded, to me, like the end of a chapter. Then I walked out. This time, I didn't look back. While I was learning Redwood systems, Hunt Haven was falling apart. The glitch got worse. The bell rang at all hours. The welcome back, sister message popped up randomly, sometimes in the middle of check-in. Guests noticed. Is this some weird marketing thing? One asked Nina. It's creepy. The staff told Ezra it needed fixing. He refused to pay the tech company to patch it. It's just a glitch, he said. Reboot the system if it bothers you. But the glitch was a symptom, not the disease. Vendors started calling about late payments. Housekeeping schedules were a mess. Complaints piled up faster than anyone could answer them. I heard bits and pieces from Nina and Sean, a night manager who still sent me the occasional "you wouldn't believe this" text. Each update hurt. But each one also reinforced that leaving had been the right call. Then Nina dropped the bomb. It was a Thursday evening. I had just finished a long strategy call at Redwood and was about to shut my laptop when my phone buzzed. Nina, can you talk? It's important. I called her. Is everyone okay? I asked. She hesitated. We're not physically in danger, she said. But the hotel is. She told me that months earlier, before I left, Ezra had pitched a big expansion, luxury suites, rooftop bar, fancy spa add-ons. My parents had balked at the cost. He'd sweet-talked them into loans anyway. He said it was a sure thing, Nina said. That he'd already talked to investors. That we needed to act big to be big. He'd signed off on renovations and financing. Total debt? Around $2 million. Construction started. Then material costs went up. Timeline slipped. Ezra stopped paying one contractor to try and pay another. Legal threats started trickling in. And your parents knew, Nina said quietly. They've been trying to juggle payments. But they didn't tell you. Walter tried to step in and warn them, but they brushed him off. I pressed my fingers to my eyes. Of course they protected him. Of course they hid it from me, the harsh daughter who asked uncomfortable questions. Creditors are calling constantly, Nina said. We had someone show up in the lobby last week threatening to put a lien sign on the front door. I thanked her, hung up, and just sat there in my silent condo, feeling oddly calm. Because that was the moment any lingering guilt about leaving just evaporated. They hadn't just chosen Ezra once. They doubled down on him even as the numbers screamed disaster. They had picked the golden boy and bet the entire house on him. And now the house was on fire. A few weeks later, my parents asked to meet one last time. Against my better judgment, I agreed. Walking into Hunt Haven felt like visiting a sick relative in the hospital. The lobby was technically the same, but not. Plants drooped. One of the overhead lights flickered. The front desk bell had been physically removed because the ringing freaked everyone out. In Dad's office, all three of them were waiting, Dad, Mom, and Ezra. They looked smaller somehow. Dad's voice was hoarse. The bank is repossessing the property, he said. We're out of options. We've sold what we can. We're done. Mom's eyes were red. We tried to fix it, she said. We really did. Ezra didn't say anything at first. Just picked at a loose thread on his sleeve. We talked to the bank, Dad continued. They said if we brought in experienced management, someone with a solid track record to lead a restructuring, maybe we could negotiate. He swallowed. We told them about you, he said. Your work with Redwood. Your reputation. They were impressed. They said if you agree to come back, take full control, they might consider an arrangement. He looked at me with this desperate hope. So we're asking, he said. Come back. We'll sign everything over. It'll be yours. Please. Mom reached for my hands. This is your chance to finally have what you earned, she said. We were wrong before. We see that now. Don't let your anger destroy everything. My throat burned. The younger me, 23, exhausted, desperate for their approval, would have melted. But I wasn't her anymore. Where was this energy when I was building the hotel? I asked. Where was this recognition when I was spending my nights balancing vendor payments and calming guests? We didn't realize. Mom started. Yes, you did, I said. You just didn't care enough. It was easier to believe Ezra would magically fix everything than to admit I'd been doing the work of a CEO for years. Ezra finally spoke. I messed up, he said quietly. I thought I could handle it. I thought the expansion would save us. I really believed. You believed your own hype, I said. Because everyone in this room fed it. He flinched. I am sorry, he whispered. For what it's worth. I believed he was sorry. I also knew sorry didn't unsign loans or pay contractors. Dad slammed his fist lightly on the desk. Are you really going to let this place die out of spite? He demanded. I thought of Grandpa's blueprint. The tearful staff. The glitch. The $2 million secret. No, I said. I'm letting it die because the people in charge chose ego over competence, denial over reality, favoritism over fairness. And they did it again and again, even when they had chances not to. Dad stared at me like I was a stranger. You've changed, he said bitterly. Yes, I said. Finally. Mom's shoulders shook. We'll lose everything, she sobbed. Our home, our name. You already did, I said softly. The moment you decided your son's feelings mattered more than your daughter's work. I stood. I'm sorry it's ending like this, I added. But I won't light myself on fire to keep you warm anymore. I walked out. I didn't slam the door. I didn't yell. I just let the silence say everything I was too tired to repeat. Hunt Haven closed officially 2 months later. The sign came down. The website went dark. The building sat empty, waiting for whatever would come next, another brand, another dream. People in the local hospitality scene talked. Shame about Hunt Haven, someone told me at a networking event. Heard the sun ran it into the ground. I just nodded. Ezra's reputation spread quietly. He went from potential young CEO to liability. He tried to interview at other hotels. Word travels fast in our industry. He got polite emails, then no emails, then nothing. Last I heard, he was doing odd jobs, contract work here and there, nothing consistent. The boy who'd told me I didn't deserve it couldn't get what he'd been handed for free. My parents had to sell their house and move into a small rental. Their social circle shrank overnight. People who once lined up to attend their holiday parties stopped calling. I won't lie, a part of me wanted to say, I told you so. But a bigger part of me just felt done. They'd built this outcome themselves. I hadn't pushed them toward it. I just refused to stand in front of the crash. At Redwood, meanwhile, my life was the opposite of haunted. I led teams. I sat in meetings where people turned to me when it was time to decide, not just when it was time to clean up. We rolled out a guest experience program I designed that boosted satisfaction scores across the region. After one particularly successful quarter, Robert brought me into his office. You know what I like about you, Sylvia? He said. You don't just solve problems. You build systems so they don't happen again. He slid a folder across the desk. Regional Director, he said. It's yours, if you want it. I laughed in disbelief. Is this a prank? No, he said. This is what happens when you're somewhere that recognizes the value you've been carrying all along. My condo by the river became my sanctuary. I got used to the quiet. To knowing that when my phone buzzed at 11 p.m., it was a friend sharing a meme, not a panicked staffer begging for help. I saw Grandpa often. One afternoon, I brought him lunch and told him everything, the Redwood promotion, the final meeting at Hunt Haven, the hotel closing. He listened, eyes soft. I went by the old place last week, he said. Boarded up. Grass growing too high. It sat in a way. I nodded, throat tight. Then he smiled faintly. But I'm proud of you, he said. You didn't let them drag you down with it. I started that place. Your father had his turn. You turned it into something beautiful. And when they chose to wreck it, you chose yourself. That's not selfish. That's smart. He handed me the old blueprint again, folded and worn. I don't know what you'll build next, he said. But whatever it is, you'll build it on your terms this time. I held that paper like a relic. For the first time, I realized something huge. My worth didn't start at Hunt Haven. And it didn't end there either. If you've listened to me talk for this long, first of all, you're a legend. Second, I want you to hear this clearly. You don't owe lifelong loyalty to people who only value you when they're desperate. You don't owe your time, your sanity, or your health to a job, a family business, or a person who takes credit when things go well, blames you when things go bad, and only remembers your value when they're about to lose everything. You are allowed to clock out on time, say no to unpaid emotional labor, walk away from family legacy if that legacy is built on your unpaid, uncredited work. Sometimes the most powerful thing you can do is stop preventing the natural consequences of other people's behavior. That's what I did. I didn't sabotage my brother. I didn't leak secrets. I didn't burn it down. I just stopped holding up a building that wasn't mine anymore. And when it fell, I was already somewhere else, building something better. If this hit a nerve, if you've ever been the Sylvia in your workplace or a family, the invisible backbone, tell me your story in the comments. You don't have to use real names. Just let it out. Have you ever watched someone else get the credit for what you carried? Are you still there, or did you walk away? What would your Hunt Haven be in your life? And if you're standing in your own haunted lobby right now, bell ringing, system glitching with your name on it, wondering if you should stay and fix it again, consider this your message on the screen. Welcome back, sister. This time, you get to decide who you show up for. Thank you for listening to my story. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and tap the bell if you want more long-form stories like this. This was Sylvia. And when they rang the bell the last time, I finally didn't come running.